Good morning, and thank you for being here today for this exciting announcement. My name is Janet Forbes, and I'm the Executive Director at Inclusion Winnipeg and your MC for this morning. I'm so pleased to be here alongside two people who will be remembered as leading their teams in work that will ensure the rights of children with disabilities are upheld and to create the best province in Canada to raise a family. I would like to begin by asking the media to hold your questions until the end, once all guests have had the opportunity to speak. Now, I would like to welcome Rochelle Squires, Minister of Families, to make this announcement.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Janet, for that wonderful welcome. It's great to be here. Good morning, everyone. I too would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene people, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. I would also like to express my sincere appreciation to the staff at Specialized Services for Children and Youth, or SCI, for hosting today's announcement. The Government of Manitoba is a proud partner with SCI, along with the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority, the Rehabilitation Centre for Children, Pediatric Home Care, Manitoba Possible, Community Respite Services, and others who are partners and co-locators at this welcoming, family-centred facility. SCI is a one-stop centre for children with disabilities and other special needs, where specialized services are co-located to make accessing services easier and more seamless. This centre reduces the stress that children and families often experience when they need multiple services. I wish to thank them for their continued collaboration. I'm also pleased to be joined today at this announcement by the Acting Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth, Ainsley Crone, as well as Janet Forbes, the Executive Director of Inclusion Winnipeg. We know that at times the needs from families and children with disabilities exceeds the current support options available to them. This was further identified in the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth's Bridging the Gaps report that was issued last year. We also know that home-like settings with consistent caregivers remains the preferred option to support children when they cannot be cared for by their family or extended family. This is especially true for children with disabilities who may be more vulnerable by virtue of their disability. Together, we are here to announce a new and exciting initiative, the Bridge Program for Children and Youth with Disabilities Pilot Project. This pilot aims to support families who are no longer able to provide full-time care due to the complexity of their child's exceptional care requirements, and to avoid unnecessary placement of children into CFS care. The pilot will provide the right level of support to families experiencing caregiver fatigue. It will help to ensure that their children are safely supported in living arrangements that include family involvement and provide families with specialized and flexible service options. The Bridge Program for Children and Youth with Disabilities will be established for a period of 2 years with dedicated funding of $4 million per year for a total project cost of $8 million. As part of this initiative, Children's Disability Services and Child and Family Services will continue to work collaboratively to ensure the needs of these placements meet the developmental and care needs of vulnerable children. Evaluation of the pilot will determine whether the co-parenting model and the other interventions lead to positive outcomes for families. We are confident that this pilot will keep more families together, will improve parental capacity, and support families to cope with parental stress. This pilot project will play an important role in filling a current gap in services for families caring for children with disabilities. This pilot is aligned with the recent Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth recommendations that Manitoba families create and resource a strategy for alternate care outside of the home for children with complex disabilities, and also supports government's objective of reducing the number of children in CFS care. To procure the services being announced today, my department will issue an expression of interest to existing service providers to identify potential partners for this innovative pilot project. More information regarding the expression of interest will be made available in the days ahead. In closing, I would like to thank our friends at Sky, the departmental staff, and all the community partners for their ongoing dedication and commitment towards supporting children's development throughout Manitoba. I would now like to welcome Ainsley Crone, the Acting Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth, to the podium to say a few words. Thank you. Merci beaucoup and miigwech.
Good morning, and thank you to the Minister for the invitation to be here today. My name is Ainsley Crone, and I'm the Acting Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth. I'm pleased to be here today at the announcement of a program that focuses on serving children with disabilities and their families. The Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth is an independent, nonpartisan office of the Manitoba Legislative Assembly. That means that we are separate and apart from the government. Our role is to represent the rights and amplify the voices of children, youth, young adults, and their families. And one aspect of our role includes advocating in the area of children's disability services. Last March, as the Minister mentioned, my office published a special report called Bridging the Gaps, which stemmed from the child death investigation of a child that we called Emma. Emma's family struggled to navigate disability services in Manitoba and ultimately had to rely on child and family services for support. They were no longer able to provide care at home because of the growing complexity of Emma's care requirements. Emma died accidentally just days before an emergency systems meeting was scheduled to discuss an out-of-home placement for her. For the Bridging the Gap special report, we heard from hundreds of Manitoba caregivers, we interviewed academic experts, current and former service providers, families, and children and youth with disabilities. We conducted extensive data analysis of children's disability services, as well as child and family services records. Over 400 people were consulted in the making of that special report that centered and amplified the voices of children with disabilities and their families. What we heard from Manitoba families is that many of them are struggling with underfunded services inside a complex public system that leaves them unsure where to turn for supports. What we also know from the frontline advocacy support services at my office is that as children with disabilities grow up, their increasingly complex care needs can sometimes outgrow the care that can be managed by their families and their caregivers. Today's announcement is a win for those children and youth, and for their families who will have additional care options that can be tailored to the changing needs of youth with disabilities. No family should have to face the decision to place their child in CFS when no protection concerns exist. In that disability services review that I released last March, I issued 9 recommendations to the provincial government and to service providers for system improvements. These recommendations focused on strengthening the disability services system in our province and reducing reliance on the child welfare system for supports. The recommendations emerged from the voices and experiences of children, youth, and their caregivers. So today, the Government of Manitoba is listening to those voices by responding to recommendations intended to enhance services for children and youth with disabilities. Today is a promising first step towards bridging some of the existing gaps for families in Manitoba and complying with recommendations that my office issued last year. As an independent voice for children and youth in the province, my team and I will continue to monitor the implementation of recommendations made in our special report. Children with disabilities in Manitoba have fundamental human rights to live, to thrive, and to participate in society, and we must continue to work towards realizing these rights. So in closing, I want to thank everyone here today. I want to thank Sky for hosting us. And especially I want to thank those working every day to serve children with disabilities and their families. The COVID-19 pandemic has not made this an easy task, and this announcement is indication that work has also continued inside the Department of Families, despite all obstacles, to center the experiences, needs, and rights of children with disabilities in Manitoba. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful. Okay. The families who have children with intellectual disabilities or autism spectrum disorder will be thrilled to hear this announcement this morning. And Inclusion Winnipeg is very proud to be here working with you and our board, staff, and volunteers, and all those across the province. We'd like to thank the Minister for her leadership and her vision for healthy families getting the support they need to make the best decisions for their family. I think about the parents who at the end of the day are exhausted and wonder if they have done enough to ensure all of their kids are okay, that they are included in the typical activities with other kids. They go to bed, often with a feeling of being alone and a wish that they could just be an ordinary family, and a hope that they can get enough hours of sleep to do it all over again tomorrow. One father told me that the first time he and his wife were able to sleep through an entire night was when their 23-year-old son moved from their home. I'm imagining families shouting a big thank you this morning, along with the team of dedicated staff within the departments and the region and the Advocate's Office and the designated agencies that are providing the services. We will join them in that thank you. Thank you, Minister Squires and Ainsley. This is such a warm feeling. I think we're moving out of COVID, moving out of Winnipeg. So now I'll turn it over to the media for questions.
For years, we've been hearing from families who have had children with very complex needs asking for this kind of support. And we know that there are at least 20 families who are in dire need of these types of services immediately. So we're looking at being able to roll the service out to them very soon. Yeah, probably. I don't have that number off the top of my head, but we do know that there are quite a few families throughout the province of Manitoba who are experiencing challenges with their children with disabilities and just need this additional support. So we'll be working with the families directly to see if this is a potential option or a potential pathway for them. We're going to be putting out more information about the expression of interest in the days to come, but it is imminent. We want to move very quickly on this. We know that families have waited long enough, and we want to get the service available to them as soon as possible.
Can you describe the type of service? Might differ depending on each family and needs. So what are you looking for in that person?
We're looking for a service provider who can help just meet these children where they're at and help them with their developmental goals and challenges and all the other extenuating circumstances that they might be dealing with, whether they be psychological, developmental, physical. We're looking at bringing families together, giving them the supports that they need, and making it as seamless and streamlined as possible. Much like this center here, where they're able to treat families who are dealing with several challenges all at once, so that families don't need to go to different resource centers or places to get the services that they need. We want to create a one-stop shop for those families with children with severe disabilities. Sure. Well, first of all, I can't imagine a harder decision or a more heartbreaking decision to make if you're a family member dealing with a child with severe developmental disabilities that you don't feel adequately equipped to deal with anymore, and that the options provided to you are to put your child in a CFS placement when there's no protection issues. I can't imagine a more heartbreaking situation. And that is not only a heartbreaking avenue, it is also a very expensive avenue. What we're offering today is an opportunity for the families to stay together, for the families to still be the legal parent or the guardian while their child can access those services that they would have otherwise received if they were in CFS care. And we certainly know that this is also a very expensive pilot, $4 million a year to service these families, but worth every penny in the investment, and we believe that the cost savings will be neutral. Okay, that was all the hard questions. Anything for the other speakers? Okay, thank you for coming out today and